Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Mythgard in Middle-earth. My name is Corey Olson, the Tolkien professor, and I am joined, as always, by my friend Gryfflet. There he is. There he is. He seems... Oh, there he is, yes. He found this convenient plinth sitting here outside Thinglad yeah, here we go. Come on, Gryfflet. Get together with us. Here we go. All right. Okay. He's ready to go now. He was taking a nap. He likes to take naps. So, all right, we're back. So I wanted to kind of reflect for a little bit on the sets of quests that we did last time. So, of course, I'm just starting here in the Great River. And I'd done the two different sets of quests with the interactions between the Elves and the Rohirrim up here in this border ground. First of all, can I just say it's a really interesting thing. The choice of the Great River as a zone. Looking at the map for a second here, not just that map, but ooh, I love this map. Right. Sorry. Whenever I see this map now, I get so distracted. But anyhow, so I'm going to try not to be distracted. But seeing this, Parth Celebrant, of course, is a super important place historically. For the Rohirrim, obviously, and the Rohirrim coming to the aid of Gondor, and of course, sort of establishing themselves as the allies of Gondor. But the choice of the Great River, of this land here between the two rivers, as this kind of border zone between the Rohirrim and the Elves in the north, just the south of Lothlorien and the fringes of Lothlorien. It's very clear, of course, from the text that the Rohirrim have plenty of legends about the Elves, right? They have a name for it, right? They call it Dwimordine, which means like the sort of the forest of sorcery, essentially. Anyway, so I love this concept of having the Great River as an area which is this kind of transitional stage where we're moving towards Rohan. It's the northern boundary of Rohan, but it's this in-between zone between Lothlorien and Rohan. And here one of the things that we get dramatized is the interaction between humans and the Elves. And the Rohirrim, of course, are a really fascinating choice, right? Because on the one hand, they're good guys. They are allies of Gondor. They are on the side, in that sense, of the Elves, right? They are the close allies with the people who were close allies with the Elves in ancient days, from the times of the Last Alliance. So there's a kind of affiliation. It's not like we're seeing the Elves of Lothlorien interacting with Easterlings or something like that, right? But at the same time, the Rohirrim, we know, are closer to the wild men, culturally speaking. Remember, Faramir talks about this in Ecthelion when he's talking to Frodo about how the men of Middle-earth, that is to say, not the Númenóreans, the men who remained in Middle-earth and sort of lived through the Second Age here in Middle-earth, were, their understanding was kind of darkened. They don't know, they don't have the experience, they don't have the history with the Elves that the Dunedain had, of course, out in Beleriand. So to them, the Elves are mysterious, and because unknown and powerful, probably sinister, right? The fact that they would conclude that they must be threatening is logical, right? Especially for, peoples like this, when they see something which is so obviously other. Lothlorien is so different, right? You can't even see Lothlorien from a distance and not say, whoa, there's something unusual happening there, right? And so it's very natural for them to be afraid of it. But I love how these initial quests did. So the ones we did, for those of you who missed the show last time, I did the ones where you're interacting, right when you first come in, where you're interacting with the Rohirrim fisherman's camp on the banks of the river, and then you get sort of sent along to the hunter's camp that's further inland. And we saw in the first camp, of course, we see the Lotro quests are dramatizing both sides of the equation, right? On the one hand, we're getting the the superstition of the men, right? Their uncertainty about what's going on, their jumping at shadows and at strange sounds, how far on edge they are because they don't know what's going on, and anything that is strange or out of the ordinary could be threatening, just given how freaky everything is anyway, right? But then inland, it doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? What is it? Why is it that the Rohirrim hunters inland resist, are not so quickly scared away as the fishermen? And the reason is they have a higher calling, right? They've lost one of their companions and they're searching for him, and they're not going to be scared away and leave because they're not going to leave their companion to die. And of course, their companion, it turns out, has been killed by orcs. So here again, we see another element being dramatized, right? In this conflict between, gentle conflict anyway, sort of suspicion at the very least, standoff maybe, between the elves and the men. We see the men willing to brave it, right? And for good reasons, for loyalty to their companions, with courage to stand up against orcs which are invading this region, right? These are the good things that have always been good about men, even though the elves themselves are they're more powerful, but they're holding back. They're not doing anything, as elves often do, right? So we see again, although again we see a lot of good things on the part of the elves, like they don't want to just go in and kill all the men, which they could do, but they won't, right? Because that's why they'd rather scare them away. They would much rather the men simply avoid their woods so that there doesn't have to be any conflict between them. And yet we also see the elves holding back in a sense to a fault, right? They've allowed this orc camp to grow right next to their camp, and they've not even really paid attention to it. And that's an elvish failing that we definitely see in the Elves of Middle-earth in Tolkien's writings. And then, of course, we get the final step, right? The final step being when they do meet, when the hunters, when the hunter captain does meet the elves and fights alongside them in battle, he becomes smitten, right? And we see his infatuation with the elvish captain. And which, again, that's another really important... We get a little... I mean, it's like a very, very miniature, really more like a very distant echo of the Beren and Luthien moment, right? Where this human man who is, separated from the rest of his people, and he's out and he's in danger, and he sees... the elf maiden, and he, chases after her, right, hopelessly. And of course, in his case, continuing to be hopelessly, right? Beren kind of wins the lottery there, but our poor friend from the hunter's camp does not. But that, of course, is a very well-known side effect, right? Potential side effect, at least, of the interaction between mortals and elves, right? It's definitely a theme. It happens to Gimli, for crying out loud, right? This kind of reaction that mortals have interacting with the elves also really well dramatized here. So I just wanted to kind of point these things out. Oh, and then of course the last detail, the fact that the elvish woman handles it really badly and is totally unsympathetic to him, not just gently saying, dude, I'm not into you, right? But being really harsh against him and treating his interest in her with a sort of revulsion, right? That's, again, typical to see the kind of lack of sympathy from the elves toward the humans, possibly less sympathy than they deserve, or than maybe they should be showing, sort of objectively speaking. All of those things are really interesting themes from the book that these stories are picking up on. So I just wanted to kind of point this out. I didn't talk about this stuff too much in the big picture while I was going through them last week, but as I was reflecting on it, I was really struck by this. And this is just sort of something that I find extremely interesting, extremely compelling about Lotro as a game. It's a lovely illustration of what I find so excellent about Lotro as an adaptation of Tolkien's world, is that even quest lines like this, which are, pretty small, sort of landscape quest lines here in the Great River, but they're engaging with the text in really interesting ways. It has nothing to do with the bigger plot of the story exactly, right? That is, it has nothing to do with the Lord of the Rings plot, certainly. But it has a lot to do with the world building and the way in which they're using even these plot, not just picking totally random sort of funny storylines, but doing these things which are really thoughtfully engaging with some definite doing some real critical thinking, I think, about these themes in Tolkien. That's really fun, and I have a huge admiration for the way that they go about doing this. Anyway, so I just wanted to. So that's end of lecture. I just wanted to kind of comment about that in general before we move on, and we'll see what the rest of the Great River holds for us here. So I was sent down. Let me try to remember what on earth is going on. So signs of. I was supposed to talk to a scout, right? Okay, right. The other elf has asked me to. There's an elf scout, I guess, called Renfire, and I'm supposed to find this person. So we're going to see, I suppose we're going to see what's happening a little bit further down. Yeah. Right. Okay. But I'm also supposed to go over to the river. Maybe I'll go over to the river. And yeah, I'm going to head over this way, go back to the riverside and go, 'cause I'm pursuing the epic quest as well as the next vector quest to the next area, because I really want to see how this area, by which I mean the Great River Zone, continues to play out, because I've been super interested in and satisfied with the kinds of quests that we've been doing so far. So, all right. Cool. So I'm trying to remember what was happening in the epic quest line. I was they mentioned the company, right? And I remember that in the vision, in the dream that I had, I saw Gollum chasing them. Let's see. Oh, trampled grass. Well, it's a kind of a high traffic area. Let's see. Do I see any hints? Any clues? Any Easter eggs? I love all the little Tolkien Easter eggs in this game. Okay, wait. More disturbed earth? Well, I kind of need more to go on than that. Okay, all right, okay, keep searching. What can we find? Let's see, where are we exactly? Okay. Rauros is further south. Sarngebir. We gotta be close to Sarngebir, right? Uh-oh. Oh no. That's not a good sign. That's not exactly a sign of the fellowship's passing. Oh dear. An orc arrow from the body of the slain scout. That's a bad sign. Are there orcs in the western bank? Oh man. Oh, I've got to go all the way back up there now. Okay. Well, I'll do that. But let me check in with the scout here, since we're down here already. All right. Let's see, how far am I from the... All right, hang on. Let me stealth up and let me see if I can answer a lore question. Okay. Oh, yeah. Robert Brown had a question that he sent in by email. Would it be better to read the first edition of The Hobbit as the first read? Would this make Bilbo's lying more real than only hearing about it afterwards, and thus the power of the ring more impressive? What edition did I read or give to my children? Well, I definitely gave the modern published edition to my children, because it's really... It's not easy I mean, I don't even have like a physical copy, just like a freestanding copy of the first edition of The Hobbit. It's not that easy to find such a thing. You can get the text. Oh, hey, look, it's an orc camp that I'm seem to be sneaking my way straight through. No problem. You can find the text, like if you want to know what was in the first edition of The Hobbit, you can find it. But you generally have to find it in places like, for instance, the place that I would recommend would be John Ratliff's History of the Hobbit. Because you can get all the text there, and as well as seeing other sort of intermediate stages and early stages of other things and stuff. That is, you get to see the early draft material as well as the first published edition stuff. So I really like that. But again, it's not like I don't even really have a physical copy of here's the first edition of The Hobbit. I will admit that there would be a kind of interesting advantage to knowing only the first edition of The Hobbit. I mean, Robert, I personally love the idea of having that kind of reading experience, to know the first edition of The Hobbit, to go right from having read only the first edition of The Hobbit, and then go straight to the Lord of the Rings, right? I think the first couple chapters, especially chapter 2, would hit you like a bombshell if you did that. That would be amazing. But so I mean, like in theory, I my mind boggles imagining that. But it's hard to see how that's really practical. And I feel like if I told anyone to do that, I feel like I'd be setting them up, for like some kind of, not exactly like a practical joke, but I would feel like I'd be treating them like a lab rat, to be like, and now tell me how you feel, right? Let me explain briefly for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about. I'll talk to Renfire here, and then in my next time I'm running around and killing orcs and stuff, I'll try to explain why I think that would be so mind-blowing. I'm sure many of you know, but just to explain to those who don't, why that would be earth-shattering, I'll try to explain.
Servants of the enemy cannot pass the bounds of Lothlorien.
Okay, but there are plenty around here. You have spotted signs of orcs, have you? Yeah, I just walked through a whole crowd of them. I spotted signs too. Okay, let's see what we can figure out here. All right.
Tarry a moment and speak with me.
Okay, the men of Stengard are not allowed in these woods. Their trespass has caused no lasting harm. Okay, fine. You want to make them a gift? Neighborly goodwill. Okay, see, we've got distrust on the part of the elves, the desire to keep their distance, but not malice, right? They're wanting neighborly goodwill. That's great. Gather hides from the beasts of the forest that the Rohirrim may craft clothes and blankets. Aha! And so notice what they're doing here. They're like, you don't want to come hunting here. You don't need to come hunting here. We'll just give you some hides and you can go away.
Will you aid the Galathrien?
Okay, you've been picking mint for me. Well, that's very thoughtful. If we plant high concentrations of mint in the Old Burrows, the Wargs will not dream of returning. Really? I've heard of planting marigolds around your, flower beds and stuff to keep the rabbits out, but I didn't know that mint repelled wargs.
Lothlorien, against which we must be prepared.
Who knew? I probably should have clicked on this one first. Wargs. Yeah. This has not happened for many a long year. The Old Burrows are overrun with them, so that's why we're planting the mint. Got it. Okay. Planting mint. Seriously. Okay. Evil is spreading. Right. Slay wargs. Right. Okay. So I'm supposed to plant mint. I'm supposed to defeat wargs and collect hides. Presumably warg hides. Right. Okay. All right. So I'll go this way up there to the wargs and I'll collect hides and things as I go, and then I'll get up to... Oh, who's that? Huh. Got horns on his back. That looks uncomfortable. Orc? I'm guessing. Huh. Hey, dude, you notice this orc corpse, like, sitting right here? Oh, you've seen signs of them, have you? Right? He's a good scout. He's noticed this corpse over here. Maybe all those tents, firelit tents over there. I noticed that, too. I must be a good scout also. Oh. Oh, come on. Seriously? Are we doing this, Mr. Deer? Come on. I keep getting attacked by deer in this place who I don't want to kill. I mean, why should I? But honestly, I'm going to take your hide and give it to the hunters. But look, because just as I was transfixed by a colossal statue off in the distance. Oh my goodness, would you look at that? That's on the next mountain over. At first I thought there was a statue sitting here. No, that's on the next mountain over. Look at that. And I'm facing the total wrong way, so presumably I'll see that later. But wow. Wow. That is awesome. That's a guy, you know who that looks like? That looks like somebody who might be missing a hand. That's what that looks like. And I think I know where to find it. But anyway, where was I going? Wargs. That's where I was going. Okay. We're sneaking up on Wargs. And first edition of The Hobbit. I was going to explain what I find freakish. Well, freakish, that's a strong word. Oh, these are just wolves. They're not wargs, are they? Oh, this counts? He's a warg? He looks like he's just a wolf. Maybe not? Okay. Sorry. I was going to pick his pocket next, but it probably wouldn't have worked anyway. So, okay, so first edition of The Hobbit. Oh, and the deer, honestly. But what is wrong with... What's wrong with the deer around here? I'm on your side, man. I was attacking the wolves. That elf scout really needs to make a new alliance with the deer around here. They could clean out the wargs. Good grief. The fox going to attack me next? Okay, so first edition of The Hobbit. So here's the reason why, just for those of you who don't know, I'll try to explain this briefly because I know I've explained this before and many of you know this already. But if you don't know it, it's awesome and you should. So, there's a random orc I don't want to meet. So let's start by thinking of chapter 2 of The Lord of the Rings, right? Chapter 2 of The Lord of the Rings. Gandalf is talking to Frodo, and he says to Frodo, Frodo says to him, Bilbo told me about the ring, how he found it and how he used it. And Gandalf says, which story, I wonder? And to which Frodo responds, oh, not the one that he told the dwarves and put in his book. Now, when I was a kid reading The Lord of the Rings for the first time, I found that line completely puzzling. Like, absolutely, I had no idea what on earth Frodo was referring to. I'm like, what do you mean, not the one that he put in his book? Because, of course, I knew what Bilbo's book was, right? Bilbo's book was The Hobbit. That was obviously the book in question, right? And when Frodo says not the one that he put in his book, he then goes on to suggest that it is, in fact, the one that he put in his book, right? I'm like, where's the difference between the story that Frodo seems to be telling or operating under, or the understanding he's operating under, and the story that was in Bilbo's book? Like, it's exactly the same. What's the deal? So I was always powerful confused there. And then again, you'll recall in Rivendell, when we get to Council of Elrond, Bilbo, when he stands up to tell his story at the Council of Elrond, looks sheepishly in the direction of, what's his face, Glóin, and says, "I'm now going to tell the true story. And if any of you have heard me tell it otherwise before," he says, looking sheepishly at Glóin, "I ask you to forget it and forgive me." And again, I was like, whew, no clue what Bilbo is talking about. I'm like, what exactly is Bilbo even apologizing for? And anyway, so the answer to these puzzlements that I always had growing up is in the first edition of The Hobbit. Because, of course, if what Bilbo put in his book is understand as the published Hobbit, something that a lot of modern readers don't even understand, or don't even know about, is the fact that the Hobbit that we all grew up with, most of us grew up with, I think I can safely say most of us grew up with at this point, as it's getting increasingly long ago that the second edition of The Hobbit came out. So the only people who would not have grown up with this would be people who grew up with The Hobbit prior to 1947. So we're talking about a diminishing population of readers at this point. But prior to 1947, The Hobbit was different. In the very first edition of The Hobbit, published in 1937, Bilbo and Gollum don't have a... there's no conflict between them at the end. They have their riddle game. The riddle game happens, and the riddle game is almost identical to what we see in the published, in the modern Hobbit text. Like the riddles are all the same. What have I got in my pocket, and giving him 3 guesses, all that stuff is exactly the same. The primary thing that is different are the terms of the game. The terms of the game are that if Gollum wins, Gollum eats Bilbo. That was always the stakes on Gollum's side from the very beginning. But if Bilbo wins, then Gollum will give him a present. That's the agreement. And when Gollum loses, when Gollum can't guess what's in Bilbo's pocket in 3 goes, then everybody agrees, including Gollum, that he has lost. And Gollum is a very honest riddle game player. He would never even dream of not abiding by the... The wolf is both dead and stunned. That's handy. He would never even dream of breaking the rules of the riddle contest. It is inconceivable to him that he would do that. He's an extremely scrupulous and honest riddle game player. So he goes back to his island to get the present, because what he plans to give Bilbo is his magic invisibility ring. That's his plan. And he goes back and he finds, as in the later text, that his ring is gone. He can't find his ring anywhere, and he doesn't know where it is. So he goes back to Bilbo. And he goes back to Bilbo hugely apologetic. He is very embarrassed because he said that he would give the present, and he doesn't have the present to give anymore, and now he's afraid that Bilbo is going to think that he was trying to cheat at the riddle game, and he would never ever cheat at the riddle game. He knows how bad this looks, because it looks like he was trying to cheat all along, and he totally wasn't. And so he offers Bilbo some fish, like if he would accept fish as a present instead, and Bilbo is like, no thanks, I'm good on the raw fish front, but why don't you show me the way out instead, as a reward instead of a present? So Gollum's like, yeah, okay. And he takes him out and shows him the way out, and they shake hands at the door. And Gollum apologizes again. Really sorry. Please don't think any of the worse of me. And Bilbo says, pray don't mention it. And leaves. What is that corpse? Oh, it's a gigantic bear? Yikes. Okay. I'm done, right? Yeah, did them all 3. Okay, so that's how the riddle game ends. Now, you'll recognize a lot of these details from The Lord of the Rings, right? In The Lord of the Rings, again, in Chapter 2, Gandalf refers to Bilbo's story that it was a present, that the ring was a present, right? And that it came to him, and that so that even though he like the ridiculous story that he won it, Gandalf refers to, right? Which Gandalf is saying this is just a sign that the ring is getting control over Bilbo, right? That his invention of the idea, his changing of the true story, which is the story in the modern Hobbit, to this fake lying story that Gollum actually gave it to him, that he won it, that he earned it and deserved it as a present, right, is just a really transparent way for him to try to claim rightful and sort of lawful ownership of the ring, right? The very fact, so the details of the story that Tolkien originally wrote and published as the true story is turned into evidence that Bilbo obviously is under the power of the ring already, right? So it's, of course, this is the most brilliant retconning job Tolkien ever did. It is incredible how he takes this story, which initially just simply does not fit with the new story, because the ring was not the Ring of Power originally. It was just a magic invisibility ring. And he decided that it was sketchy in the Ring of Power when he was writing The Lord of the Rings. So he has to go back and fix The Hobbit. And he doesn't just pretend the original Hobbit never was, right? Instead, he does his revised edition of The Hobbit, but then has to explain the other editions. And the explanation, of course, is that Bilbo told a lying version of the story because he was under the power of the ring. But copies of that older version that Bilbo wrote himself are still out there in circulation. So it's like a reveal when we're told that that's not the real story. And when it gets put, the real story gets put in summary in the prologue of the Fellowship of the Ring, that's like the first time many of the original readers would have read that version of the story. So it would have been a surprise to them at that point. And then they would have been in the same position, that those readers would have been in the same position as, say, Glóin or yeah, it was especially Glóin and the dwarves. But anyway, they would have had the same experience. When Frodo says, "Oh, not the one that he wrote in his book," it would have been shocking to them, right? So a reader who only knew the first edition of The Hobbit will be floored when Frodo says, "Oh, not the version that he wrote in his book," right? And when Gandalf starts heaping suspicion on this, right? Saying that he could tell that story, the story that you've always known and loved as The Hobbit, was absurd from the beginning. It's going to be, I can't even imagine what that would be like as a reader to have that and only that experience. I don't think that Tolkien even intended for his readers to have that. I think it's why he put the synopsis in the prologue, right? So that the sort of the correction would be out there first, so that they'd at least have the two different stories in their heads, so they would know what Gandalf and Frodo were talking about. Anyway, it's really Phil, no, it's not those changes. It's not those amendments, actually, that he was not interfering with the pagination of, though, because he didn't change it until like a second edition came out. So again, it was 10 years after the original Hobbit was published, before the second, and the Lord of the Rings was way advanced. It was pretty much done by that point. So it was an opportunity to release a new edition of The Hobbit that the publisher ended up including some significant changes that Tolkien made to Chapter 5, and that's where the new Hobbit came from. But it is true that when you actually compare point by point the original text and the new text of The Hobbit, the changes that he makes are quite small, actually. Only a few paragraphs here and there makes all the difference, and it totally reaches. Tolkien was a genius at that. He was a genius at going back, reusing exactly the same material, but changing enough things about it that, like, all of a sudden, almost exactly these same sentences tell a completely different story. It's amazing. Ethelod is asking if I think that reading the prologue and introduction are vital to reading the story. Gosh. Great question, Ethelod. It's hard to say vital. There's a bunch of material in the, in the introduction, which, in the prologue, which I can't say is vital. I mean, like, if you skip concerning hobbits, you'll be fine. You'll be able to pick up most of it. Like, you don't need to know that Hobbit architecture was chiefly influenced by the Dunedain and through them the Elves. Like, that's totally not essential to understanding the story as you go through, right? So, no, I think that you can survive totally without the prologue. I think it's really good. I think it's wonderful stuff, but even myself, I rarely start with it. I kind of like going back and reading it at the end, actually. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't say it's essential. And especially if it's going to throw people off, don't bother. Chapter 1 is a perfectly fine place to start, I would say. But anyway, here I'm leaving poor Renfire hanging here.
Traveler. Orcs have come down from the mountains.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we've got very good. I planted the warg repellent. You sure that's going to work?
You to Lothlorien.
You hope that the wargs will stay away because we've planted mint.
What news
All
from
right.
abroad?
Okay, no. I defeated a number of those awful beasts. Yes, that awful pestilence on the land, stalking through the land and harassing innocent travelers. I also killed some wargs. Boy, the deer around here, you guys have got a serious problem.
Tarry a moment and speak with me.
Okay, the orcs that have settled in the south of Thinglad were spotted carrying strange lockboxes. Really? Like real estate lockboxes? Okay, we want to see what they're hiding. Okay. When you kill orcs in Thinglad, you should search them for keys. Alright. Collect the treasure within. Sounds good to me. Can do.
Will you aid the Gallathrien?
Okay. If the orcs mean to settle here, they will have spears and axes with them for the hewing of Thinglad's old trees and the slaughter of all its inhabitants. Right? Yeah, you should destroy the weapons. Sure. Be sure they don't cleave me first. Ha! They're welcome to try. Okay, no problem. But I forgot to go up to Thinglad. What is it called? Yeah, Haldirith. There's an extra syllable in there. Yes, okay. Haldirith. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we'll do that, and we'll... What am I looking for? I'm looking for... Well, let me go back up here. Hang on. Let me pony up. Okay. Yeah, Phil is pointing out that I skipped them for exploring the Lord of the Rings. Absolutely, I did. Yeah, no question. With exactly that rationale. I want to start with Chapter 1. I don't want to start with the, concerning Hobbit material. I like the concerning Hobbit material, but I don't generally start with it. Oh, here we are. Oh, sorry, I meant to click on my treasure thing. Okay. Let's see. So, oh, hey, yeah, Fimoth. So there was a dead scout, but I'm pretty sure the Fellowship didn't do it. I think they're innocent.
This is not the first friend we have lost, but that makes it no easier.
It's not their fault. I'm sure there's a perfectly logical explanation. Oh, right, orcs. Right. The orcs that killed her are surely somewhere in Thinglad. Yeah. Slay orcs. Good. Well, I was fixing to do that anyway. I'm glad I came to talk to you first. Okay. You know, Taffeta, like, don't have the enmity. I don't know what I did to earn the enmity of the deer, but, you know, I have no grudge against them. I don't know, man. Let's see. How many quests can I... These orcs don't have lock boxes, loot boxes, lock boxes. They don't have lock boxes, though. I want to look for lockbox keys. I only want to kill orcs that will, like, work me towards 3 quests at once. Up there? This dude? No. Let me try going up and around this hill. Oh, yeah. Gnagarwina, I did turn in the quest for killing Old Heart. Which also was unprovoked, I would add. Old Heart just attacked me out of nowhere. The elf was very sympathetic about that. He kind of apologized for, like, my being assaulted by deer. At least by Old Heart. He was like, Old Heart has gotten all bitter in his old age, and he used to be peaceful, and I don't believe a word of it, to be perfectly honest. All the deer around here seem to be the same. Wait a second. How am I not getting... Okay. Alright, Orc Warrior. I'm going to kill you experimentally. First, I'm going to pick your pocket. Let's see. Hang on. And... boom. I failed to burgle any items. And you know what that means. Instant death. Okay. Okay, defeated orcs. To get a weapon? No? That's it? Come on. I thought I was in the zone for this quest. Oh no, more deer! Hide. The does will probably hunt you down, poor Gryfflet. Okay. So where's this orc camp? Okay. Oh. Ah. Aha. I don't know where your weapon stores are, but... Aha. Okay. Alright, defeated orc. No lockbox key drop. Where are the weapons? Do I have to find the weapons separately, or do I get them? Oh, there's the weapon piles. Right. I am in the right place now. Ooh, that was effective. That's a nice little ambush there, Gryfflet. So, anyway, that's why I think that bringing a new reader through, like, experimentally giving a new reader the first edition of The Hobbit and never letting on that there was any other edition of The Hobbit, and then giving them The Lord of the Rings and seeing how they reacted would be really interesting. It also, I can't help but feel like it would be a little bit mean. And I would feel guilty about it. And I don't think I could ever do that to my children, because it would involve lying to them. You know, I would have to not let on that I knew that there was, you know, more to the story. I don't think I could do it. Oh, look, it's a lockbox. Elf treasure, huh? That sounds good. Okay, Gnagarwina asks, did the original version of The Hobbit mention Gollum's life above ground? Yes. Yes, the business about teaching his grandmother to suck eggs was in the first edition. That is a first edition joke. You know, it's really interesting. Gollum is made more nasty, more scary in the revised edition. And you know how he did it? You know, like what Tolkien did. So this is all from, I'm getting all of this that I am, let me do a plug here, because I'm getting all of this that I'm about to talk about from the master's thesis of one of my Signum students, the great Sparrow Alden. And Sparrow has a blog, which you can read, which is called Words That You Have Been Saying. A quote from chapter 1 of The Hobbit, where he says, "Pardon me if I have heard words that you were saying." So words that you were saying, words.that-you-were-saying.com, I think. Anyway, what she's done in her Hobbit book. So a couple things. First of all, she started off as just a preliminary project doing this full annotated concordance of The Hobbit, which is super useful for like no other reason. Like if she did nothing else, that by itself would have been super, super useful. But then in addition to that, she did a lot of analysis of The Hobbit using the Lexo software that Mike Drought and his team have developed at Wheaton. And one of the main things that she was studying in her master's thesis were the differences between the first edition of chapter 5 of the Riddles of the Dark chapter. Why does using this have no effect? Did I finish lockboxes? Did I get that one already? Why is it still there? Why can't I get it? I'm very confused. Anyway, so it's very cool. And one of the things that she found when she was looking at it, like what are the patterns in the differences between the first edition text and the later text? And the primary answer is more sibilance, like all that hissing that Gollum does. There's some of it in the first edition text, but it gets greatly emphasized. All the sound words, as she called them, all those words which are designed to convey what Gollum sounds like. Those are not just added like there weren't any before. Gollum was always very hissy and sibilant, even in the first edition. But that element of Gollum's character was heavily emphasized in the revised text, and that's one of the primary things that Tolkien did to sort of make him creepier, which is really fun. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I think the experiment would be an interesting experiment to do, but I'd feel sad doing it to somebody. Okay. Let's see. Oh, but Gnagarwina, getting back to your question though about Gollum's life above ground in the first edition. One other thing. So Gollum in the second edition is more sinister. Is the problem that I got this one already? I think so. Why did it read? Okay. Oh, there's a weapon pile. I still need to kill more orcs or no? No, I don't think so. All right, I'll sneak past him then. Oh yeah, lots of weapon piles over here in this part of the camp. Right. Right. The two major trends that you can see. First, he's made more sinister, but second, he's made more tragic. The sadness of Gollum's character is another thing that's emphasized. The business, if you remember the passage where it says, before he lost all of his friends and was driven down under, which sort of really emphasizes how horrible Gollum's life and situation is. That's new. That was not in the original edition. He originally, we're told that he was separated from his friends. Like there were other queer creatures that he used to hang out with. I don't know who, maybe the giant squid, I don't know. But then he couldn't anymore because the goblins came and that was annoying, and he couldn't, it was less convenient. Who's shooting at me? That's just rude. Oh, it's you. Yeah, so okay. Oh, it's the leader. Do I have to kill him? How many? Yeah. Hi. I'm just gonna come over here and I'm gonna kill both of you. How does that sound? Okay. So yeah, several of those elements are strongly emphasized in the revised text. And is he made more hobbitish? Yes, in that sense, in that we are given a glimpse of his past life that we are given a glimpse of is more hobbitish. Something, again, there's more of the sense of tragedy, not just that he, has sort of lived a long, lonely life and at times been inconvenienced. It's more genuinely tragical. Let me get out of the camp, out of the center of the camp here. Okay, hang on, I just realized I keep getting beeped by one of my other apps that's open. I'm just shutting that down here. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Ethelwald is wondering about the Fall of Gondolin. I have to admit the Fall of Gondolin makes me sad, in a sense, because I am saddened by the extent to which we don't have anything more. It's not that I don't like the Fall of Gondolin. I do. It's because I like it that I am sort of saddened by the Fall of Gondolin. And the new publication reminds me of how much I don't want a repackaging of what we already have. I want more, which Tolkien never wrote, so I can't blame Christopher for not producing. But still, if there is one single text that I wish that Tolkien had finished, if I could ask for one thing of him, if I could, if Tolkien could deliver one manuscript, right, from heaven, what would I ask for? I would ask for the completed version of the revised Tuor story, that the beginning of which is published in Unfinished Tales. That's it. That's the one I would ask for. That's what I want. Because it's not only that story is really, really good, and we only get, he doesn't even get to Gondolin, much less the fall thereof, right? it's not only that, it's that the Fall of Gondolin, of all of the major stories, I mean, the Turin, Turambar, Beren and Luthien, Fall of Gondolin, those are 3 of the 4 major stories that in Tolkien's world. And again, I think the what Christopher has done in producing these standalone books and stuff totally makes sense. However, the Fall of Gondolin, he didn't write any more material after 1937. Almost everything in the published Silmarillion. Everything in the published Silmarillion that Tolkien himself wrote about the Fall of Gondolin was written by the time The Hobbit was published. First edition of The Hobbit was published in 1937. He just never really came back and wrote that more of that story or completed, which is why it was so huge, such a big deal that he came back and started the longer version of it later on, and then so heartbreaking when it didn't finish. So I am not at all downplaying or I'm not trying to diss the Fall of Gondolin book. It's just, it makes me sad for this reason, because I really want more Fall of Gondolin. I love the Book of Lost Tales, Fall of Gondolin, and I am delighted that book is out, even if for no other reason than it means that more people will get to read the Book of Lost Tales Volume 2 version of the Fall of Gondolin, which is fantastic. More people will read the story of Ecthelion. Oh my goodness, Ecthelion killing Gothmog with his spiked helmet with no arms, right? Talk about killing a Balrog is one thing, right? But killing a Balrog, drowning a Balrog in stabbing a Balrog, having both of your arms incapacitated, right? He takes wounds in both of his arms so he can't move either arm, spikes Gothmog in the chest with his spike on top of his helmet, then wraps his legs around him and drowns him with his legs in a fountain. Come on, that is incredible. It's like the most. I'm sure many of you have seen that really funny, web post about the most metal deaths in Tolkien. And it mentions Ecthelion in the fountain, but it takes points away for the fact that he was drowned in a fountain. But that's only because whoever wrote that page had never read the Book of Lost Tales version. If he had, there is no more metal death in all of Tolkien than Ecthelion in the fountain. It is unbelievable. I love it. So yeah, it's so cool. So again, I'm really psyched that that's out there. I mean, it's always been out there, but that's kind of achieving a wider circulation. But anyway,
What news from abroad?
Okay, let's see. You're thanking me for my efforts. Yeah, no problem. Happy to help with the destruction of weapons. I found lock boxes. Tell me about the lock boxes. Elf treasure. Yeah, what kind of treasure? I didn't look. I just collected treasure. You're wondering if they're on the run from their masters, looting as they escape to survive wherever they land. So you think these orcs might be setting up on their own somewhere where there's lots of loot, nice and handy, and no big bosses? Is that what you're saying? That's interesting.
The Lothlorien will need your aid.
Oh, we're not going to follow up on that? Oh. Okay. I should take them to the Rohirrim. Give them the gift of the elves. Okay. Where? Where's... Oh, down there. Right on. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll go back up to... What's her name? Fimloth. Absolutely. Okay, hey, look, hey, it's a bear. Bears are nice and friendly. Ah, it's a deer! Get out of the way! Hide the women and children! The deer are coming. The wargs are on the run. We don't need to plant mint. We just need to let the deer at them. Okay, I'll just ride straight through the Old Burrows. Hey there, guys! Look out! I'm trying... Oh, you killed my horse? That was rude. I was trying to warn you about the deer. They're on the way. He's right behind me. Don't attack me. Attack the deer. Save yourselves. You too. Look, there's one right behind you. Oh, why these wargs are so ungrateful. Oh no! An ambush! Help! Maybe the elves will protect me. I will go to the elves for sanctuary. Whew. Oh, man. Yeah, it probably was the deer that killed that enormous bear, Phil. I totally agree with you. See, I thought those corpses lying strewn around were all from the wargs, but see, the wargs would just eat them, right? It's the deer of Thinglad that would kill all those beasts and then leave them to rot. Regular deer's trick, that. Hey, Fimwa. Hey, look! Nona, how are you doing?
What did you find?
Oh, did I find anything of interest in this place? Look out for the deer, Nona! Stay calm. I'm glad you're taking shelter here. That's very sensible. Hey, Fimloth, I killed the orcs, but I can't help you with your deer problem.
I thank you for the help.
Okay. The orcs must pay for the heartache they have caused us. Okay, I sought to engage this woman in conversation, but she is slow to trust and slower to friend. You mean befriend. Friend is only a verb on Facebook, actually. I will not ask you to divulge any of your shared mysteries to me. Oh, you mean Nana's mysteries. She's very mysterious. But I think you need to get to the root of this deer problem, frankly. She bears a sword of the Rohirrim horse lords. Yeah, it's her brother's sword. Her folk have long been in enmity with that people. If she slew the sword's owner, you may find your path through this land made more difficult. Well, that will be awkward. I think we're in for some awkwardness anyway. Hey, Nana, what are you thinking?
I am worried. My people have never gotten along with the horse lords.
I noticed that. And it seems they have a large outpost. Yeah, we do need to learn the reason behind the dream.
I will travel with you to this village, if I must.
Okay. They will bear no love for you. Yeah. We do have to handle this carefully, Nona. I agree. You will stay your hand and your tongue, but you will suffer no insult from the Forgoyle. Yeah, let's not be so quick with the Forgoyle thing. Okay? Let us learn what we may, and then leave quickly. Oh, I'm sure we'll be right out of there. Okay. All right, so you're wanting me to go down to Standguard, and Renfire wants me to go to Windmar's new camp. So we'll do that first, and then we'll head down to Standguard, and where I'll meet with Nona. And phew. Okay, that's just another player. I thought that was a deer for a second. Okay. You think it's possible that the elves don't have problems with the deer? That's hard to believe, Taffeta. I mean, how could anybody in this region not have problem with these deer? I mean, they're a menace. Excuse me, I'm just going to ride through your camp. Pardon me. Sorry. Excuse me. Coming through. Sorry, I'm too busy to be stealthy. Besides, I have to stay on horseback because it's my only hope of escaping the deer. Okay, that's good. Thank you, orcs. You might as well go back now because you're not going to catch me. Not even a swift-footed stag with blood in his eyes and fire in his nostrils could catch me now. Phew, okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Gnagarwina suggests that the Fellowship might have been safer crossing the river and traveling through southern Mirkwood than fighting their way through the deer of Thinglad. Well, let's hope that many of them didn't swim out to attack them on the river. But all right, here we go. We're coming down. There's an... Oh, hey, Limthir. What are we looking at? Oh, yeah. Look at that. River's much narrower down here. Huh. Are those trees the same? Are those malorns on the other side? Limir, that's kind of interesting, actually. Limthir. Sorry. Said your name wrong. Are those dead malorn trees, too? Did the malorn trees used to extend to the other side of the river? Is the lady's power waning? Is that what's happening? Is she fading? Right? Is she going to go to the west? You think? Oh, man. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to ask a whole bunch of, like, personal questions. Let's see. Oh, uh-oh. Unfortunately, this part of the river is well guarded. There's an orc scout. Oh no, there's another one up on the hill. I'm surrounded by the shock troops of these orcs. Oh, here you guys are. Ah, sensible. You've built up fortifications. That's good. Yeah. Good job, Rotholf. It will be harder for the deer to get in here now. Yeah, you guys keep a sharp lookout. That's it. Yeah, those antlers are long too, so you're very sensible to be using a spear. Yeah, don't let it come in close. Huh. What are we looking at? Are you looking at your captain? What's your name? Philogild. So, Philogild, you're shaking your head. You're wearing a thoughtful pose. You're scratching your head. You're a little concerned about your captain, Winmar. Are you wondering what's wrong with him? Why he's all moody and downcast? I think I could cast some light on that. I really do. Maybe you do know and you just can't understand it. Hey, Winmar. I expected to see you still holding the flowers.
Will you aid the horse lords?
No, the gift isn't from her. It's just not. Would she agree to see you again? What, you want to get yelled at again? Let me just say, Baron had to wait a long time, dude. You can't expect her to turn and put her hand in yours like in a day.
Of your services.
Tell you. Oh, man. Okay. It's time to sit down. You're sitting. That's good. Time to take a deep breath. Do I think her brethren would let you approach their keep again? You know, she's not into you, man. She's not into you. Hey there, Rotholf.
What business have you with the Rohirrim?
He's been like this ever since his first encounter with that woman. Well, she didn't actually bewitch him. I mean, not literally. He pays no mind to strange sightings and sounds. What, that wasn't me in the bushes, was it? Because I feel a little sheepish about that in retrospect. You have a bad feeling. You feel that we're being hunted as we move south. Me too. I feel that way also. Defeat any threats to the Rohirrim's camp. Okay, I saw 2 of them on the way down here. 1 on either side of the path. Waiting like they were scouts, you know, guarding the pass or maybe setting up an ambush. Okay. You want me to go out there? Look, there's one now! See? Look, gazing balefully down at the camp, calling to his... Oh no, he's calling for reinforcements! Brace yourselves! Look at that. Look at that! He's just staring at you. He's mocking you. He's trying to draw you out past their defenses. Gryfflet will have to get stealthy here. Let's see. Look at him, just gazing straight down at the camp. Oh, he's looking around. Maybe he sees me. Oh, he's going off to report back. Oh, this is a bad sign. Okay, what else can I find? Are there more? There's another one. Oh, no, they've got you flanked on this side, too. Oh, another one. Oh, this is worse than I thought. That red squirrel is probably in league with them, too. Oh, wait, here's an orc scout. Is that also a problem? Boy, is he skinny. There's this really scrawny orc scout here. Oh, there's no way that he would make that deep of a roaring sound. Okay, so I'm just meant to ignore the real threat? Okay. Don't make any sudden moves, Gryfflet. Okay. Look, he's pulled back to a higher vantage point. Look, even the orc scouts are giving them a wide berth here. Let's see. Hang on, hang on. Ow. Okay. There's a wolverine. Wolverines aren't dangerous. Here's another orc scout strolling around what looks like a perfectly innocent glade. Fearing nothing. Whoa, enduring gauntlets of healing I just found? Seriously, I just stole his gloves? Cool. Zach Cohen is wondering if the deer are in league with the elves, driving out strangers to keep the woods safe. I don't think they can be. I'm more worried that they're in league with the orcs, to be perfectly frank. I think these deer have been corrupted. Why is this dude yellow? Oh, I thought he was just... What if I unstealth myself? Hi! What are we looking at? What are we scouting for? You're just hiding from the deer, aren't you? You're thinking they won't notice you if you're over here and you keep very still. They've got all of the approaches surrounded. You can't escape. You cannot get out. They are coming. Huh. Well, you are kind of homely. Lots of scars. I never get to look at goblins this closely. What is up with your shoulder pads? You've got little wings? Seriously? Why do they have little wings on their shoulders? I never even noticed that before. Do they all have those? What's up with that? What kind of wings are those? Crow's wings? Way too small to be eagle wings. I don't get that at all. What is the association? So weird. Also, why doesn't he attack me? Don't know that either. Alright, I'm finding more threats. At least threats that I care to cope with. Okay. Need another... Oh, there's another scout. If I go this way, I won't draw the attention of the real menace. Okay. It's a flying monkey, Hologro says. But you know, there was a certain resemblance, wasn't there? I think so. Okay. All right. What's your name? Wait, stop him from sounding the alert. I bet I know where he is. Trying to stop you spreading the word of your little camp. You will wipe out the horsemen and all who interfere. Okay. So you're specifically an anti-Rohan. Wait, the orcs will come? No, you don't. Okay, now's the time to find out whether or not the deer are really in league with the... Oh. See, if that deer had attacked, then I would have known for sure that it was allied with the elves. Now my doubt remains.
Will you aid the horse lords?
More dire that one escaped. Dude, your situation is more dire than you know.
Our success depends upon our strength. Will you aid us?
He will stir enough when orc swords run him through, or not. Okay, there's much to do. Barricades to reinforce, swords and spears to sharpen. You will be lucky to survive the night. Exactly. I mean, with this many stags surrounding the camp, you are in for a tough fight of it. Okay. I will try to help you prepare. Whoa. We got some serious problems here. Fortifications. I'll start with those. I mean, this camp is being overwatched even now. I don't understand what I'm doing. I'm reinforcing this somehow. I'm not supposed to do anything to the horses. Okay, I've got some dull spears over here. Lots of things. Okay. Right. So how mighty was Ecthelion that he could kill the chief of Morgoth's Balrogs? Well, that's a complicated question to answer. I mean, on the one hand, let us have no two ways about it. Ecthelion was very mighty indeed. I mean, he is one of the great heroes of the First Age, no question. However, it's also important to remember that, you know, there are Balrogs, and then there are Balrogs. Where is this sword? Somebody stabbed that sword through the side of the tent? Well, I see a problem right here. Look, that won't happen so much if you don't... Your swords will stay sharper if you don't stick them through your tents. Huh. I guess I couldn't... I failed to sharpen this one because it was... Huh. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so Balrogs. In Tolkien's older writings, of which, of course, Book of Lost Tales is the earliest set of Tolkien's writings, back in those early days, the Balrogs were sort of less of a big deal. They were still a big deal. They were the greatest and most fearsome of Morgoth's armies, but they weren't... Oh, excuse me. They weren't like sort of like evil archdemon-like. In the Fall of Gondolin, again, as you read as you'll get to read in the book, in the original version, there's what's going on here? There we go. There's like dozens of them. Balrogs. Tuor kills like 10 Balrogs over the course of the battle. So part of it is that there was some inflation among the Balrogs, but also Ecthelion was kind of awesome. I mean, he was more than kind of awesome, honestly. Did they have wings back then? Absolutely not. In fact, it's, when you read the history of the Balrogs, that is when you look at Balrogs over the course of all of Tolkien's writings, is where it becomes so perfectly and obviously clear that Balrogs have no wings, either functional or vestigial. They were always ground-based forces. They could never fly. There's never even a whisper of Balrogs flying. Because they just don't have wings. So no, it's they are definitely not like the Balrog of Moria in the Fellowship of the Ring is definitely not a land-based descendant of previously winged Balrogs or anything like that. Yeah. So both Madman, the Balrogs are less mighty, and the heroes of that age were more so than in modern times. That's absolutely true. But when I say the Balrogs were lesser back then, what I mean is Tolkien made the conscious decision as he went on to reduce the number and increase the magnitude of the Balrogs. Like originally, the Balrogs, if the orcs were infantry, the Balrogs were cavalry, right? I mean, they were a military unit in the attack on so like in the attack on Gondolin, the orcs were infantry, the Balrogs were cavalry, the dragons were artillery, essentially. And so they had that kind of there weren't as many Balrogs as there were orcs, but there were hundreds of Balrogs at the battle. And it's not like the one Balrog of Moria is the one solitary remain, like that we should think that the Fall of Gondolin, the battle at Gondolin contained 100 Balrogs, or 300 Balrogs, the size and magnitude of and I don't mean physical size, but with the level of power of the Balrog of Moria. It's not like that. He made a conscious decision later on that there should be way fewer Balrogs. That there should only be like a single digit number of Balrogs total, and that they should be of much greater stature than they were before. Not just the greatest and most powerful of the fighters in Morgoth's army, which again was the original concept, but rather that they should be a totally different order of being. And that's why they... so it's... The later Balrogs are a much bigger deal in that way. Okay.
Our mission is dire.
Let's see. With me here you have hope. Well, I have managed to hold off the assault of the deer so far, but you sense the attack will come soon. Oh dear. Am I ready to stand with you and fight? We must rouse Winmar from his daze. Okay. This is going to be awesome. Okay. So Phil says, would the earlier Balrogs have been much closer in power to the dragons? No. The earlier Balrogs were less powerful than the dragons. Like, again, in the old Fall of Gondolin, a bunch of Balrogs, like dozens of Balrogs, came in riding on the back of a dragon, right? So they're not only physically smaller, they were, it was not the Balrogs who devastated Gondolin. It was the dragons who enabled it. And then the Balrogs did the dirty work, and the orcs, of course. But, yeah. Yep. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the time, trying to figure out if I have... I don't think this is a long... Well, I shouldn't risk it. I need to start ending more or less on time, which is why I started more or less promptly today, because my kids are back in school now, so I'm back on carpool duty and have to make sure I'm not late. So I'm going to resist the tempt. So next time, Rotholf, we shall stand shoulder to shoulder against the onslaught of the deer. There he is, still watching. Oh, he's got his back to us. A clever ruse, Thinglad buck. Don't think we're going to fall for it. We know you're only staring off at the reinforcements that are just about to come over that hill. Anyway, cool. So, thanks everybody for joining me. I will be back next... Wait a second. I will not be here next week. Yeah, I won't be here next week because next week I'm going to be down in the Washington, D.C. area because I am going to be at MagLab. So if you know of MagFest, the gaming convention, they have their special MagLabs, which is the more sort of hands-on creator space version of MagFest. So I'm going to be there and speaking several times and doing in fact, I'm going to give a Lotro talk specifically. I'm going to see if I can stream it too on Signum U. Talking about and kind of bragging about, honestly, the adaptation that they're doing. And so it's going to be a talk about adapting stories for video games using Lotro as a very positive example of how to do that really well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be enjoying being down at Megalabs next week, and I'll be talking about Lotro. And again, maybe I'll be able to stream at a time when you guys can join me. I should be able to stream it on Signum U, a Signum U channel. But in any case, I will. I'll see you guys not next week. I'll see you guys the week after next. Is that true? Yes, that is true. I will be back after next week, and I will see you. So I'll see you guys in a fortnight then, and we will have that much time to desperately try to bolster the defenses of this camp against the onslaught that we're awaiting from our dreaded foes. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye now. Thanks for joining in on my rambles around Standing Stone's brilliant digital adaptation of Tolkien's world. If you enjoy these adventures, please consider supporting this and other entertaining educational programming by donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.